Hello guys, and welcome to today's tutorial video about STALKER Anomaly video settings. So I've been getting a lot of comments lately about how do I get the game to look so good, what my settings are, and how do I set up a reshade. So I decided to make two videos about that subject. First one being the STALKER Anomaly video settings, and the next one's gonna be about Agressor ReShade. Before I start, I'm gonna mention my current PC specs. I'm gonna place additional info in the video description so you can check it out. For those of you who are new to STALKER series, I want to mention that all the previous STALKER games were running on a 32-bit X-ray engine. If you don't know, 32-bit engines were limited in using only around 4 GB of memory, so the game couldn't utilize all the memory you had. But thanks to the modern community, they put an effort and finally rewrote the X-ray engine and turned it into a 64-bit game. Since this is an open world game with a lot of NPCs and mutants, it's good to have as much memory as you can. If you don't have enough memory, then the game has to load files and textures from your hard drive. That can cause a lot of stuttering and lag. Remember, memory is always faster than hard drive. Now let's start the game. Double click and you're gonna see this window here. I played the game on DirectX 11. Shadow map is set to the lowest. This can improve performance. Also enable prefetch sound. This option here might make your initial loading time of the game longer, but it might reduce the stuttering and lag because it's gonna preload most of the sound onto your memory. Like I said, DirectX 11, shadow maps on low, prefetch sound enabled. Save the settings and start the game. Like I said, I play on DirectX 11. I did try on DirectX 10, but the game was unstable and was crashing a lot. If you have a really low end PC, you might try going for DirectX 9. I personally always play on DX11. The game looks phenomenal and it is very stable. In my video settings, I keep the resolution at 1080p. I don't play in 4K or 2K. It's hard on the FPS trying to play such high resolutions and having all the video settings on max. And now the advanced video settings. So let's go through these options and explain what they do. This option here enables stalkers to use headlamps. It is very immersive seeing stalkers walk around in the dark with their headlamps on, so always keep it on. Vertical sync is disabled. Same thing goes for the FPS limiter. Next is rendering distance. Here we have 4 different options. First one being the world. So this here option affects how far into the distance you can see. I'm gonna show you an example. This here is the low view distance. Watch the horizon. I'm gonna switch to max view distance. If you're still having performance problems, then you might wanna reduce the slider to like 1/3. You're still gonna see enough objects in the distance, but it's gonna improve your performance. Static objects. This option affects all the static objects like buildings, trees, bushes, walls, stuff like that. It's the same thing as the world, how far into the distance they will appear. This is how it looks on max settings, and this is how it looks on the lowest. You can see a lot of the objects are missing in the distance. So I keep this on max. I don't see much difference in FPS. So same thing applies for dynamic objects. Only thing this affects is NPCs, mutants, anomalies, stuff like that. Here's an example on NPCs and how you can see them in the distance based on this video settings. If it's set on high, you can see them from far away. If it's set on low, you can see them disappear after a certain distance. If you are using HD models on certain locations, this option can drop your FPS a lot. So usually I keep it on max, but only on few locations like Rostock or that ship in Zaten. So I reduce it to like half, just so I can maintain a playable FPS. Remember, this is #1 option to drop your FPS if you're using HD models. Be careful with this. Next is distant shadow. Enabling this can improve performance by removing distant shadows. Can cause very long shadows to be removed, noticeable only during sunsets and sunrises. I keep it on, so don't see much difference. Now we have rendering quality. First is texture detail. If you have enough memory, then keep this on max. Always do. Then we have object detail. This sets how detailed the objects will be in the distance. I'm gonna show you an example. You can notice that ground, trees and bushes look awful on this low setting. Next is texture MIP. This sets the quality and sharpness of textures in the distance. If you have a good graphic card, keep this on high, or else the texture is gonna look blurry in the distance. Next is anisotropic filtering. This option here has no FPS loss, so keep it on max. Even those older graphic cards can handle this without any problem. So this option affects textures and surfaces when you look at them from a certain angle. If it's set on max, you can see a lot of details on the ground. If it's set on low, you can see that the ground can look a little bit blurry. Now, anti-aliasing. I keep this on ×2. You can go higher or disable it. This option is good if you're playing on lower resolutions, so you can smooth out those edges of objects and textures so they don't look jagged. If you're playing on 2K or 4K resolutions, then you don't need this. If you have a weak graphic card, then I suggest you disable it. It can have an impact on performance. Detail bump, another setting that gives quality to textures. No FPS loss, I keep it enabled. Step parallax is another mapping enhancer, makes textures look more realistic. Keep it enabled. Tessellation, I'm not sure how good this option is in Stalker games, but I do know that GTA 5 uses this, so I'm gonna show you a screenshot from GTA 5 just so you can see the difference. On the left, tessellation off, on the right, tessellation on. So you can see the difference in quality and details. On the right, with tessellation on, it's much more realistic. Now next, grass. So we have here the grass density. It's what it says. It affects how dense the grass will be. This option can have a huge impact on performance. So I tested it on my current PC, and the max I can go is around 80% density. After that, FPS drops like crazy. Then we have grass rendering distance. This is measured in meters. I keep it around 90 meters. You can go longer, but it's going to impact your performance, or you can go minimum to 50 meters for the best performance. Then we have grass size, also measured in meters. Minimum height is half a meter, but I always keep it on 1 meter high. It might be hard to spot mutants or dead bodies in the grass, but I like the looks of it and I always keep it on this height. Then we have grass shadows. This option can affect FPS, so if you have a low-end PC or graphic card, you could disable it. Personally, I like it. It kind of gives depth to it, so grass doesn't look so flat. Next, it's lighting. So all this affects your graphic card. First is lighting distance. It's on max. I don't see much difference in the FPS. Then shadow quality, it's on, actor shadow on, specular gloss. Well, how do I explain this? When it's raining, most of the objects are going to be shiny. It's not going to be that much, but you're going to see the difference. Sun shadow is enabled. Sun shadow quality, it's on high. Don't see much difference between high and extreme, so I keep it on this. Sun rays, I keep this on volumetric, which is the best. This is going to be noticeable during those sunsets and sunrises. Sun ray quality, again I keep it on high. Sun rays main intensity and base intensity, I haven't messed around with these options, so I don't see much difference. I just keep it at default. SSAO, I always keep this on. Interior rooms look less flat with this option enabled. SSAO quality on highest. Then we have volumetric light. This option adds realism to interior lights and also gives kind of a physical elements to them. Let's say if you have a swinging lamp in the room, the light's gonna be moving around. And finally, the effects. Soft water, always keep it enabled, otherwise the water is gonna look all cartoonish and like it was made in the 90s. Then we have soft particles. Well, this affects particles, you know, like muzzle flashes, fire, anomalies, stuff like that. Then we have depth of field. Oh my god, always keep it disabled, because this is the worst option in any Stalker game. Just can't understand how they're not able to make this option function normally. Motion blur, it's actually a nice feature, but it has a problem. It doesn't work very well with those picture-in-picture 3D scopes. I'm gonna show you an example. It looks good when you're moving around, but when you try to aim through a scope, it looks messed up, so you have to disable it. Again, depends on which weapon are you using. If you're using normal scopes, then you can enable it. Set this to the value of 0.15. Don't go too much, or else it's gonna be too blurry. Then we have wet surfaces. Again, this is something when it's raining, so you're gonna see ground surfaces or objects being a little bit wet. It's not that much noticeable, so it is what it is. Volumetric smoke, I keep it enabled. This is same as volumetric lighting. It kinda gives a physical element to the smoke. Let's say if you have a fan blowing inside the room, the smoke is gonna be moving. It kinda looks more realistic. So this here concludes the video settings for STALKER Anomaly. I also want to say that there is a misconception about Stalker games being poorly optimized. Some people have been comparing Stalker to other games like Call of Duty and Battlefield, and how those games run smooth and have nice graphics. So I want to explain something. Those games are arcade shooters with simplified scripted AI. They don't try to simulate anything. Now I'm going to show you something so you can realize why this game requires a good CPU and a really good graphic card. I'm going to enable debug maps so we can see all the AIs in the game. Now all these dots represent a squad. So those squads can be zombies, mutants, NPC stalkers, whatever. Different colors are different units. This here is a dog. Let's see, this here is a monolith squad. What about this one? This here is mixed dogs. These are bandits. So all these AIs, they have their own life inside the zone. They try to live, move around, explore the zone, fight each other, die in anomalies, or travel from one map to another. This is the reason why this game is so dynamic and unpredictable. So any game that has a lot of AIs is gonna be heavy on CPU, especially if it's a complex AI like in this game. Let's teleport somewhere on the map close to the AIs. Okay, these guys here look interesting. Let's teleport here. Here we are. The AIs are just doing their thing, patrolling around. These guys are military. I played a lot of shooter games, but this game here definitely has one of the best AIs I've ever seen. I hope you like this video, and I hope you understand why this game requires a good PC. So, see you guys on the next video about Agressor ReShade.